That's a mama. That's a mama. They got something for her over there. They still got a feeder over there.
Hello everybody, my name is Lexi. I'm an assistant trainer here with the Cat Ambassador program. In just a few minutes we're going to have our 3 cheetah cubs out. So they're actually turning 7 years old tomorrow. So here they are. We have Zola, Lulu, and Kiara. So in Swahili, Zola means tranquil, which we always say is a little ironic because she's probably the least tranquil out of the 3 girls. Lulu means pearl, and then Kiara means princess, which is pretty fitting for her as well. But an easy way for you guys to tell them apart, especially when they're up in the front like this, is to look at their shoulders. So Lulu, who is right here in the front, if you can see, she has that little shaved patch on her left shoulder, so Lulu left. Kiara has a little shaved patch on her right shoulder, and then Zola here has no shaved patches. So they've had those little shaved patches, a little bit of hair, since they were first arrived when they were really young, just to tell them apart, because when they were a lot younger, they all looked pretty much the same. But now as they're growing up and getting a little bigger, they each have some different characteristics, especially in their face. So Zola has more like a narrow face than her 2 sisters, so sometimes in pictures it's a little easier to tell her apart. And then Kiara has more of like a rounder face as well. And then also, as you guys can see, they all 3 have that white tip on the end of their tail. So it doesn't mean anything crazy, it's just a difference in spot pattern. So some cheetahs have it, some cheetahs don't. Some people do like hypothesize though that white tip at the end of their tail could be a way for cubs to follow their mother from the savannah. But no, Honey, he's one of our male cheetahs, he has just a black on the end of his tail. So yeah, it's just a difference. And spot patterns on cheetahs are actually unique to each individual cheetah, which is pretty crazy. So just like our thumbprint is different between each human, it's the exact same thing for cheetahs. And that's actually a great way for researchers to be able to get population numbers and to tell different cheetahs apart in Africa. It's just by that spot patterns that's unique to each cheetah. So through aerial photography or looking on different trail cameras they have set out on the savannah, they're able to tell what cheetahs are in the area, which is a pretty cool way that the researchers help with research as well. As I said, they're going to turn 7 months old tomorrow. So right now, and consistently throughout their lives, Zola has been the largest. I think she's like 39.5 pounds right now. So around 40 pounds. The other 2 I think are around 37, 38 pounds. So they're all pretty close together. So even me saying Zola is the largest doesn't really help us out that much because it's harder to tell when they're not all 3 right next to each other, right? But yeah, they're over a third of the way done growing. So adult female cheetahs will typically average out at about 85 pounds. So they're almost halfway there. So they're growing really, really fast. They got here at the zoo when they were only 5 days old. So they were in on. Very, very cool outside. The snow stacked up was probably triple the height at that time. But what we did when they started getting those different vaccines is taking them to different indoor areas around the zoo. So we were able to transfer them to an education building. So that was just, I think the first area they started exploring was one of those classrooms. So it was carpet, there's different smells, different animals go in that room. So there was a lot going on. So when they first got out there, they kind of slink around on the floor a little bit, a little cautious. But they've grown up to be super, super confident, which is the goal for them being ambassador animals here. So once one of them kind of warmed up to the area, it didn't take much longer for the other 2 to also warm up to the area. And then, as you can see, they love playing with each other. They'll do that in every space that they're in. And then they would go back to the hospital for nighttime. And then other times we would take them up to the clubhouse building. That was kind of the next space they started visiting, which was great also because there were a lot of windows in that building right by the train station. So it was a great way for guests to also be able to see them as they've been growing up. Because if you guys have been following our social media at all throughout their lives, we posted a lot of different developmental stages. They look a lot different than they did even 5 months ago. And that's because cheetahs are born with like this long gray hair that runs down their back. It's kind of whitish and we call it a mantle. And then also, since their spots are on their skin and not just on their fur, they're actually a lot darker when they're littler because if you think about it, all the spots are really, really close together because there's not as much surface area, right? So as they start to grow up and get bigger, all of those spots start to spread apart, and then that orangish tannish color kind of pops through when they're like adult size. But that's why when they're younger, if they have that long mantle down their back and then the sides of their bodies are really dark, they're meant to resemble a honey badger actually. So that's just a type of camouflage that cheetah cubs use. Especially it is important in Africa because survivability in cubs to adulthood. So they kind of need all of the help they can get out there on the African savannah. Are aware that honey badgers are a dangerous animal, so hopefully they confuse them for a honey badger and look for their meal elsewhere. But something cool that we've actually noticed with our cheetahs in managed care here is they lose that mantle a lot quicker than they would in Africa. But if you think about it, it kind of makes sense, right? Because here they don't have to worry about predation, they don't have to worry about where their next meal is coming from, and all of those things as well. So they get pretty comfortable pretty quickly, and then they lose that white hair a little bit quicker than their wild counterparts do. And another way you can kind of tell Kiara apart from her sisters, especially if she's up here, she loves to drink from the moat, which is pretty funny because they have several fresh water sources behind the scenes, but they love this moat area, so they can keep drinking from it if they want to. But when she like kind of bends down to drink, you can see she has like some longer white hairs on the back of her neck, and then those are just leftover mantle hairs as well. Now another form of camouflage that cheetah cubs have is some of their vocalizations, just like a bird. It's pretty crazy. Especially when they were younger, they would chirp a lot for each other. It's just a way for them to communicate, and also, again, for predators to think, there's not a cheetah cub down there, it's just a bird, not really worth my time. So it's another method of camouflage for these guys in Africa. But cheetahs also have some other cool vocalizations. So they're one of the largest cats that can purr, but they cannot roar. So if you guys have been here, you've probably heard John the lion just right down this path. He roars constantly throughout the day, but because he can do that, he cannot purr. So it's either one or the other. So cheetahs and mountain lions, they're the two cat species that are the largest that can make that purring noise, but they are unable to roar. Yeah, cheetahs have a lot of crazy vocalizations, including just the chirping and the purring. Sometimes they have like little meows, like high-pitched meows. Donnie, our male cheetah, he's the only male in our program right now. He does a stutter call sometimes, especially because we have two habitats. We have this habitat and our running yard habitat, where most of our cheetahs live up there. And they all proper vaccines, and they were able to start going outside, and it was a little bit warmer. They were up at our cat ambassador building a lot, building relationships with all the team members. And then they came here because in May we're doing daily chats at 2:30 for Zoo Babies Month. Yeah, and it is a great opportunity again for them to explore and become confident in a new space. And also, cheetahs are super visual creatures, so eyesight is definitely their best sense. So it's great for them to be able to see everybody out here as well. So if you ever see them kind of looking at that back and like spotted something back and forth, there's a little pathway right there. So they definitely, something has caught their eye. So they're super, super visual creatures. It's a great source of enrichment for them, just being able to look around as well, because cheetahs have what's called binocular vision. So they can see about 2 to 3 miles away, pretty crystal clear.